Like and subscribe right now, or this spider will crawl on your face while you're sleeping.
Traveling to exotic and beautiful places comes with too high of a price sometimes. Yet, the luckiest among the unfortunate survive these 10 unbelievable airplane water landings. From the distant Micronesian Islands to one of Hollywood-worthy water landings on the Hudson River, we brought you the most incredible pilots and the most frustrating omissions. Mechanical errors, corrupt authorities, and a company, as well as dumb luck, played a role in our countdown today. Let's get to it. Number 10. Air Niugini Flight 73 in 2018. The federal state of Micronesia are better known for their warm and sunny beaches and hot humid weather. Yet at the 10th spot today, we brought you a shocking water landing near Weno, which would have easily ended much worse. On September 28, 2018, a Boeing 737 landed short of the runway at Chuuk International Airport. The plane rested in Chuuk Lagoon, a beautiful atoll of 75 square miles, about 6 times the size of Weno, the largest city around, with a few more than 13,000 people. What would have happened if the plane crashed over the town instead of landing in the atoll? Locals and small boats rescued most passengers and all of the crew members. Yet 6 passengers suffered injuries and 1 lost his life. According to local authorities, thunderstorms caused the trouble to the flight crew, who did not comply with the Air Niugini standard operating procedure, the approach, or the pre-landing checklists.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that will take just 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell and you get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it. It really works.
Number 9. Lion Air Flight 904, 2013. At the 9th spot, we brought you a miraculous landing close to paradise on Earth. Who doesn't want to fly to Bali? It has beautiful beaches, friendly people, and outstanding resorts. Certainly the passengers of Lion Air Flight 904 were expecting to start their holiday in a very different way. However, they had a different destiny. Luckily for them, the universe had a scary plan for them, but not a tragic one. On April 13, 2013, the Boeing 737-800 crashed into the water short of the runway, with 101 passengers on board and 7 flight crew members. The final investigation report found the crew tried to land in the harsh weather conditions. The weather became more violent before the crew could go back, so they had to attempt an emergency landing. Although the plane suffered severe damages, all the passengers and the crew survived. Yet, 46 suffered injuries, 4 of them serious. Number 8. DVDV Air Flight 014, 2009. Bonaire is one of those endemic destinations we dream of traveling to someday. At the 8th spot, we brought you the story of DVDV Air Flight 014, a commuter flight from Curacao to Bonaire. The small flight carried a pilot and 9 passengers only. On the 22nd of October 2009, the plane ditched in the Caribbean Sea off the coast of Bonaire. The flight usually takes around 30 minutes between Curacao and Bonaire. When the aircraft left Curacao at 0948, everybody expected to land in Bonaire at around 10:13. However, 10 minutes after departure, the starboard engine failed in flight. The pilot, Robert Manzel, chose to continue the flight to Bonaire on the remaining engine. During the ditching, the aircraft lost the cockpit door and the left main landing gear at impact with the water surface. All 9 passengers survived the ditching, and a nearby driver's boat rescued them. The passengers claimed that after the ditching, the pilot suffered injuries and lost his conscience. Sadly, the pilot went down with the aircraft despite some of the passengers who tried to remove him from the seat while the airplane was sinking. Number 7. Garuda Indonesia Flight 421, 2002. For spot number 7, we brought you the story of Garuda Indonesia Flight 421 in 2002. Flying to and inside Indonesia was hazardous deal in the early 2000s. Just recently, the EU lifted a severe ban over Indonesian airlines. Still today, the responsibilities of airlines and aircraft manufacturers in those turbulent years are not entirely clear. January 16, 2002 is a date that brings back to memory one of the many tragic and scary moments of international Indonesian air travel. The flight faced a frightening thunderstorm close to Yogyakarta, its destination. As a result, the plane suffered flameout in both engines and ditched in a shallow river. The crash caused several injuries and a death of one person. According to the report, nearby villagers helped the survivors to evacuate the plane. The uninjured passengers went to a nearby empty house with help of the locals. Meanwhile, someone from a nearby town drove the injured to the closest clinic. Number 6. DAS Air Cargo 2002. Uganda is a beautiful place. It offers some of the most impressive wild scenarios globally, like the iconic Lake Victoria and the snow-capped Rwenzori Mountains. For spot number 6, we brought you the story of an incredible airplane water landing of a cargo aircraft over Lake Victoria. DAS Air Cargo DC-1030F freighter N800WR was heading from Entebbe to London. The plane was carrying over 50 tons of cargo, which makes the landing even more memorable. The plane landed long, 4,000 to 5,000 feet down from the 12,000-foot runway. The nose gear touched down 13 seconds after the main undercarriage. The DC-10 couldn't stop and slid off the runway into Lake Victoria, about 100 meters from its southern end. A rescue team on a life raft rescued the crew members within just 10 minutes of the accident. Number 5. Angara Airlines Flight 9007, 2011. Corruption and greed lead to harm eventually. Such was the case of Angara Airlines Flight 9007, a preventable accident that reached our 5th spot today. On the 11th of July 2011, Angara Airlines Flight 9007 ditched into the Ob River after suffering an engine fire. The aircraft was an Antonov AN-24 turboprop passenger aircraft, a Soviet-era plane that had more than 36 years operating with 48,000 flight hours accumulated. The flight was a domestic service from Tomsk to Surgut, Russia. 7 of the 37 people on board died because of the accident. In 2011, the West Siberian Transportation Prosecution Office stated that the maintenance of the aircraft was not compliant with the Russian regulations, and that the maintenance checks for the magnetic chip detector were noted in the aircraft's technical log, but were never carried out. Number 4. Tutner Flight 1153, 2005. For spot number 4, we found you the story of Tutner Flight 1153 in 2005. Airplanes are full of tiny details. It shouldn't surprise us because they enable heavy steel monsters to fly through the air through precise engineering. However, we can't believe how such an obvious detail turned into a regular flight into a tragic moment. Tutner Flight 1153, UG-1153/TOX 1153, was Tutner Airlines' international flight from Bari, Italy to Jabera, Tunisia. On 6th of August 2005, the Tutner ATR-72 ditched into the Mediterranean Sea about 18 miles, 29 kilometers, from Palermo City in Italy. Although the ditching was successful, people got harmed. One of the 4 crew members died along with 15 passengers. It's hard to believe, but the cause of the accident was fuel starvation. Unfortunately, the plane had a fuel quantity indicator, which belonged to a smaller plane. The fuel readings misled the crew and the operations team, who couldn't manage fuel appropriately. Number 3. Leoag International Airlines Flight 585, 2002. For spot number 3, we brought you the story of Leoag International Airlines Flight 585 from 2002. The Philippines is a republic scattered in a lively archipelago, where more than 100 million people live. Its largest island, Luzon, is one of the largest globally as well, with more than 42,000 square miles, housing more than 60 million people. Within such a densely populated island, an air crash would be terrible. So when an international flight from Manila to Luang across Luzon crashed into Manila Bay, everyone feared the worst. On the 11th of November 2002, the Fokker F-27 Friendship, a small passenger aircraft, crashed shortly after takeoff from Ninoy Aquino International Airport, Manila. Of the 34 passengers and crew on board, only 15 survived. When the flight crew noticed the plane was having trouble, they decided to return to the airport, yet it was too late. They tried to ditch in Manila Bay instead, as they realized it was impossible to reach the airport. On January 10, 2003, the Filipino authorities declared that the pilot error was the cause of the crash. According to official reports, the plane's 2 surviving pilots failed to notice that the fuel valves were closed. And now get ready for today's best pick. At number 2, Lion Air 2020. We're sad to mention Lion Air a couple of times already. Fortunately, all 108 passengers and crew survived after a new Lion Air jet crashed into the ocean in 2020. The plane snapped in two when it was trying to land on Bali. Yet, it isn't surprising that 45 people suffered injuries. The great bit about it is that any of them had severe ones. TV footage showed police and rescuers evacuating the 101 passengers and 7 crew members on rubber boats. Officials initially said that the plane overshot the runway before hitting the water. Still, a spokesman for Lion Air, a low-cost carrier, said that the plane crashed about 50 meters ahead of the runway at a news conference. Number 1. US Airways Flight 1549, 2009. At the first spot, we brought you the story of US Airways Flight 1549 in 2009. I couldn't believe that a flock of birds could be so dangerous until I learned about this story. On January 15, 2009, US Airways Flight 1549 left New York City's LaGuardia Airport to Charlotte, North Carolina. The plane hit a flock of birds shortly after takeoff. The crew was shocked when they realized they had lost all engine power. They didn't have any airport within reach to try an emergency landing, so pilots Chelsea Sullenberger and Jeffrey Skiles glided the plane to a ditch in the Hudson River off Midtown Manhattan. Boats nearby rescued all 155 people on board alive by nearby ships, with a few serious injuries. Later on, this water landing became known as the Miracle on the Hudson. An official working for the National Transportation Safety Board described it as the most successful ditching in aviation history. The pilots and flight attendants received the Master's Medal of Skilled Air Pilots and Air Navigators to recognize their heroic and unique aviation achievement. Sullenberger's 2009 memoir, Highest Duty: My Search for What Really Matters, was adapted into a feature film, Sully, directed by Clint Eastwood. It starred Tom Hanks as Sullenberger and Aaron Eckhart as the co-pilot Jeff Skiles. It was released by Warner Brothers on September 9th, 2016. Thank you so much for watching today's video. We hope that you enjoyed it, and please stay tuned for some more great content.